The all-new Hot 97.7. Michael J. Mike Moraitis right down the line. Thanks so much for hanging out with us and making us a part of your early morning. Look, Fresno, I know it's early for you guys. I know it is. But, we're giving you what we can here. So thanks for waking up with us. Appreciate some of the texts I got. So, thank you guys. We appreciate it. All right. So, Mike, I got to ask you, since I covered the Broncos for quite a while, and I'll tell you this, when I saw Russell Wilson, and I'll be honest, Mitchell Trubisky of Pittsburgh, I was like, I'm not going to lie to you. I wanted to see Russell Wilson at a Pittsburgh Steelers press conference with Mike Tomlin, with the Rooneys. That's what I wanted to see. And I'm not going to lie, I was a little disappointed that he went to Denver. However, before I give you my take, I want your take. How do you think that that's going to go? Because look, we all know they paid him a grip of money to come over there. Was this the right move for Denver, and is it going to pay off?
Oh, 100%. They desperately had to do that. They had a pretty good team last year, but just their quarterback situation was a disaster, So, they needed to secure that role, and what better way to do that than to bring in one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL? Russell Wilson for so many years with the Seahawks turned nothing into something. He was the driving force of that team. Now you take him out of Seattle, you put him in Denver with, a really good offense. I love Javonte Williams at running back. Cortland Sutton, I think, is going to have a monster year this year. Get him. Drafts have already happened, but get him in fantasy where you can. Jerry Jeudy's another good receiver. So you've got such a great supporting cast. It made all the sense in the world. That was the last piece they were missing, and I think it's the one that puts them over the top to win that division this year.
I completely agree with you. It was as many coaches as they've had to deal with, as many quarterback issues that they've had to deal with over the years. I was there for the whole Brock Osweiler thing, which was interesting to say the least. But
disaster.
Yeah. So, now you bring in a veteran, a proven Super Bowl, been to 2 Super Bowls, has won one, Marshawn Lynch. I can't get over that still. But anyway,
it still bothers me.
Oh my God, it's still it still sits right here. But at the end of the day, I completely agree with you. I think this was one of the best moves, personnel-wise, that Denver has made in quite some time, and I think they are going to benefit from it. Russell, even though he's had the success that he's had, I always feel like not that he plays with a chip on his shoulder, but he not like Aaron Rodgers, not like Brady, but I feel like he's always playing to prove something, to prove that you guys missed out on me. I shouldn't have went so late. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing. But for Russell, it works. Obviously for Tom and some of these other guys, Aaron Rodgers, it's worked for them. But Russell's a different breed. He's more humble about it. He just likes to say what he says and then goes out and shows you what he's made of. And I think that breeds well in Denver. I know that culture out there. I know how those fans are. And the minute, excuse me, that him and Sierra touched down in that place, that city went nuts. They went nuts. It was almost like Jesus himself got off of that airplane to come play quarterback for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, hey, getting a really good quarterback, Russell Wilson, is like almost, the coming of the Messiah. He's going to save everybody, It's just the way it is. And I actually kind of feel like the Broncos have been a little bit underrated this year.
I agree.
Tough division. I understand that. And those teams are going to beat up on each other. But, you're adding Russell Wilson, who I think is a, top 5, 10 quarterback in the league at worst.
Absolutely.
To a team that was already very good. And then, the defense as well. I love Patrick Surtain. I think he's a star in the making. I think he's really going to come, into his own this year. Randy Gregory and obviously Bradley Chubb is the biggest question mark on that defense. But if he plays at a high level, man, that defense is going to be good too. And I think the team that has the best defense in that division that's going to be the difference between who wins it and who doesn't. And obviously the Chargers have beefed up their defense a lot. I don't
Sure.
like the Chiefs defense. I don't like the Raiders defense. So that leaves me the Chargers and the Broncos. And I'm going with the Broncos over the Chargers to win that division.
Absolutely. AFC West, it's a tough division, and
Oh,
speaking
crazy.
of, we can get into that. I'm right there with you. I think Denver is the team that has the better defense, and now that they've added Russell Wilson, I honestly think that this is their year to take that division away from Kansas City. I would not be surprised at all if that happens. I had made a comment to a friend of mine about it, and the guy thought I was, he looked at me like I had 20 heads. He's like, what are you talking about? Kansas City's going to win that division. I'm like, do you watch football or like?
Right. Yeah.
Like, I'm just letting you know, man, pieces of pieces, they fit right or they don't. And Denver put pieces together that fit. And like you said, they were they were a quarterback away, honestly. And they were some tweaks on offense. That offensive line has gotten better. I, I'm just saying, I know Patrick Mahomes, everybody loves to watch him. People love to hate him. People love to love him. But, I see what I see. And I agree with you. I think Denver takes the AFC West this year, just because of those pieces that we've talked about. So let's talk about the AFC South. Mike, we got the Titans, Colts, Jags, and Texans. Who do you like in the AFC South?
I picked the Titans to win. I have them going 10-7, finishing with the same record as the Colts, and the Titans will take it via tiebreaker. But these are two very evenly matched teams, right? Both are going to have very good defenses. The Titans lost Harold Landry, but I think they have enough to not fully cover it, but good enough to where they won't miss too much of a beat without having Landry. And their secondary is better also. So last year the pass rush bailed out the secondary. This year, I think the secondary is going to do a little bit more of the bailing out because they've got a lot of talent in the secondary. So I think the Titans are going to be, good defense, very good defensively. I think the Colts are going to be very good defensively. Another thing these teams have in common is on offense, there are a ton of question marks, right? I mean, the Titans have a bunch of new receivers, tight ends, two new starters on the offensive line. The Colts have some new starters on the offensive line. You're talking about a new quarterback in Matt Ryan, who has kind of had a couple of down years in a row.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a ton of weapons in the passing game. Jury's still out on Alec Pierce, and Michael Pittman's a very good player. But beyond him, a lot of question marks. So both of these teams are in very, very similar spots. But I'm going to give the edge to the back-to-back AFC South champs, the Titans, and say that they're going to go ahead and take that division once again this year and at 10-7.
It's not because you write for them, right? No, I'm just kidding.
No, definitely not. No,
I'm
no. But seriously, I mean, I'm one of the most impartial people you're ever going to
I
meet.
know,
If,
man.
if I thought the Titans were going to stink, I would tell you. But I love that defense that they've got. Even without
Oh,
Landry, I think they're going to
I
be
agree.
good.
I
Jeffrey
agree.
Simmons is he's going to take the torch from Aaron Donald when Donald, if he hangs it up in the next couple of years as the next great interior defender in this league. I just like the Titans pieces a little bit more. And, Vrabel's a great head coach. I mean, Frank Reich's a very good head coach as well. But Vrabel, I mean, the Titans, 91 players fielded last year, an NFL record because of injuries. They still managed to win the division. They still managed to win the number one seed in the conference. Disappointing ending in the playoffs, obviously,
Sure.
but this team is going to be good this regular season. And, I mean, they beat the Bills last year. They
Yeah.
crushed the Chiefs. They beat the Rams. So this is a team who can beat good teams.
Yep.
And I think that really doesn't get enough attention as far as the Titans are concerned.
They're fun to watch. As much as it pains me to say it, they're fun to watch. The Colts adding Matt Ryan, they were 9-8 last year. Do they improve with his addition?
I think so. I think he's going to be better than Carson Wentz.
I,
And by all accounts, Carson Wentz was not very good in the locker room there. Matt Ryan has changed that. He's brought a different attitude, a leadership role. And the knock on Wentz has always been, he's not much of a leader. He's
right.
kind of a
Not
quieter
that guy.
guy who stands on the side. By all reports that I've been reading out of their training camp, Ryan has really changed things a lot, given them that leader at the quarterback position that they
Sure.
need. Is he going to be better? We'll see. I mean, I think he's still a very good thrower, but he doesn't offer the mobility that Wentz did. And if there's a breakdown up front, he's not going to be able to escape the pocket like
No,
Wentz was. And that's a big problem against a team like the Titans,
absolutely.
and other tough defenses that they're going to face. Can Matt Ryan, avoid getting sacked? Does he have enough? Because without his mobility, can he stay on his feet?
Yeah, AFC South. Look. I think that the Colts will improve from 9-8. I think you get, maybe 2 more wins out of that team with the addition of Matt Ryan, with the whole culture change inside that locker room, as you attested to. Look, the Texans and the Jaguars don't have a prayer. It just is what it is. You're talking about two teams collectively that won 7 games last year. Not
Yeah.
overly impressed by any additions that they've made. So I think the Titans run away with this one as well. AFC North, Bengals, Steelers, Browns, Ravens. Who you got?
I'm going to go with the Bengals. I know, I don't see how they're not maybe even better this year. They beef up their offensive line to protect Joe Burrow, who is just taking way too many hits.
Oof.
Their options at receiver are insane. I mean, they are so deep. Tyler Boyd could be a number 2 receiver on a lot of teams. He's their 3rd guy.
Right.
Jamar Chase is a superstar. T. Higgins would, if he was a number 1 on a team, would probably be a star as well. And then their defense is very good. I think they're the most well-rounded team in that division by a mile. And we already talked about the Steelers. They're going to have their pains this year. The Ravens are going to be good, probably a wild card team, but I don't think that they've got the weapons on offense to really run with a team like the Bengals. And I think the Bengals defense is one of the best in the division, so I'm going with the Bengals on that.
Again, pains me to say this, but I agree with you because I do believe that they are the best team in that division. My concern with Baltimore, let me ask you this. Is this a point where now you look at Lamar Jackson, doesn't get the deal done, plays for $23 million? Is this a year that you play hard like it's a contract year? Or do you just go out and do what you do and not really worry about it? Where's Lamar in your opinion there? Is he going to go out, you think, and play harder? Because remember, he didn't end last season all that great. Chronic injuries. For me, I honestly think that he needs to show up and really play like it's a contract year. But where are you at with it?
I think he's going to get paid no matter what. I mean, I think if he plays 1 game this year, and gets hurt or whatever,
Right.
I think the value of a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, who has proven he can win games in this league and really put up big numbers, I think they're so valued that it really is not going to matter. I mean, if he plays 17 games and he stinks, all right, that'll hurt. But for the most part, I mean, he's going to get paid no matter what. It's just a matter of by who, and obviously, the Ravens will be forced to give him whatever he wants if he can take them to the promised land this year. I don't see it happening, but I think Lamar's going to have a big year this year, and hopefully improves as a passer as well. He's been getting better and better every year, but I don't think he's at that point where he's on the level of guys like Rodgers and Wilson as passers.
Sure.
But definitely a guy who can put a team on his back and win a game. So, I think he's going to get paid regardless of what happens this year. But there's going to be extra motivation. Of course, this is his future, and he wants to put his best foot forward for whatever team ends up, trying to pay him.
Yeah, the look of the quarterback, obviously, we've all seen over the past 20 years. It's just, I don't want to use the word evolve because that's not the right word, but it's changed. It's a favorite word over the past 2 or 3 years is the word pivot. It's pivoted in its direction with having quarterbacks that can move. We don't see, the Dan Marinos anymore, the guys that sit in the pocket and dissect defenses. You have to have a quarterback that can move. He doesn't have to be Carl Lewis, but he's got to be able to get out of that pocket and give you 5 yards so you can get that, that first down. So a guy like Lamar Jackson that can throw the ball deep, that, he's not, like you said, he's not, a Russell Wilson. He's not that type of passer, but he can still throw the ball very well. He's very mobile. He keeps defenses guessing because you're still, even at this part of his career, you're still not sure what he's going to do. You're not sure if they're about to run a play that's developed specifically for him to run. That is maddening as an NFL defensive coordinator. It's maddening. And especially
Yep.
a guy that big. You go back to when Cam Newton was like that. Cam Newton was a nightmare for DCs because you never knew, especially in the first couple years of his career, you never knew what the guy was going to do. He was a nightmare. So I think, me personally, I think Lamar needs to show up and, yeah, you want all this money. Well, then show me. And again, it comes from me being a business owner, being, okay, you want money? Well, then show me why I need to give you this money. I know what you did before, but don't forget, this league is also turning into the what have you done for me lately league as well. So these teams want to see, hey, you were hurt last year, missed a couple games, whatever, whatever. But hey, all right, we couldn't come to an agreement. Here's 23 mil. What you got? That's where that's how I look at it. But again, it's just me. AFC East, Bills, Pats, Dolphins, Jets. I mean, I think we both know the Bills are going to win this one. But I am going to ask you this. Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins, the addition with Derek Hill. How, what's the word I'm looking for? How does this team fare compared to last year?
I think the addition of Tyreek Hill definitely makes a difference. Obviously, a new head coach and Mike McDaniel. Um, I'm still, I'm not sure about Tua. I mean, I don't think he's got much of a deep ball, and I think that's going to hurt Tyreek Hill's production because he's a deep ball kind of guy. So are you going to be able to hit him over the middle on these drags and so he can get yards after the catch? They definitely have some good weapons. I like Waddle. I like Tyreek Hill, obviously. Mike Gesicki. Their running back situation is, Chase Edmonds was a nice addition, kind of iffy. Their defense should be good. I think they're the second best team in that division, but they're going to go as far as Tua takes them. And if he struggles, you have nowhere to turn to. So I mean, you're looking at Teddy Bridgewater after that. So
Right.
this is a make or break year for Tua. I think the Dolphins are a team that's good enough to compete and certainly make the playoffs as a wild card.
Mm-hmm.
But they're only going to go as far as Tua takes them, and the jury's still very much out on what he can do.
Tyreek Hill is known for great route running, um, figuring it out on the fly, and like you said, going deep. And sometimes that's what he does when he has to break out of where that passing pattern might have been. I've always been rooting for Tua because I want to see him do well. I'm a big underdog guy. I'm 5'9" at best, with a pair of good tall sneakers on. So I mean, I get it, you know what I mean? But I just don't. I completely agree with you when it comes to this is a year that he's got to show and prove. This is a make or break year for him, and I hope he does well. But if we're gonna go on what we've seen, it really has not been that impressive, and that's the problem I think with Miami. Now, could it all change and it be a completely different scenario? Possibly. We'll see. Maybe Tyreek Hill is the piece that they needed to maybe change some of the attitudes and the way they think about that offense and the way they're going to move that offense. It can't just be about Tua. It can't because he's obviously not doing what they need him to do in that aspect as far as getting wins and getting them to the playoffs. All right, so NFC East, Cowboys, Eagles, Commanders, now that they have their name, and the Giants. Who do you like?
I'm going with the Eagles. I think the Cowboys can get a wild card spot, but I don't think they're the best team in that division. I think it's the Eagles. Their offense, obviously, adding A.J. Brown, Dallas Goddard already there. Devontae Smith, they drafted last year. Jalen Hurts, I think, takes another step this year. Jury's still out on, as far as him as a passer, but dynamic athlete, can make unbelievable plays happen with his legs. I think he's going to benefit greatly from having A.J. Brown around as well. And then their defense. I mean, they've made some really great additions over the last couple of years. Love N'Kobe Jones draft pick. I think that was N'Kobe Dean, excuse me, is going to be a steal for them. Darius Slay, the addition there. I love C.J. Gardner Johnson. That was a great addition as well. I think the Eagles are just the best team in that division without a doubt, and the most well-rounded as well. And I think that they're going to make a run in the NFC altogether.
Jalen Hurts puts any doubt in anybody's mind this year.
Yeah,
Is where
make or break year, no question.
is where I am with him. I think he knows it. I think that I don't think that he feels like his back is against the wall. I just think that he's ready to come out. He's ready to show everybody what he's got. I think he's improved drastically since last year. Look, I like them too. And it's not because we were beating up on the Cowboys like everybody else does earlier. It's just because I think the Eagles are a better team. And I as a football guy and a guy that loves to watch football, I'm so tired of hearing the rhetoric. I want to see play on the field, and I just feel like every year with Dallas, it's an excuse. It's a reason why this didn't happen. It's a reason why that didn't happen. I'm tired of hearing, well, on paper, I'm done with hearing that too. Philadelphia Eagles are a better football team, and I'll be honest, I don't even think it's close when it comes to them winning this division. NFC North, you got the Packers, Vikings, Bears, and Lions. Who you like?
I'm going to stick with the Packers. I know a lot of people are high on the Vikings this year, but I've got to see it, and I know the Packers have a lot of question marks in their receiving core. Alan Lazard is probably not going to play week 1. He's doubtful. And then you have, Christian Watson, who's a rookie, Sammy Watkins, a lot of question marks there. So Aaron Rodgers is going to have to maybe lean on his running backs in the passing game a little bit more this year, but he's still Aaron Rodgers. He's the best quarterback in that division, back-to-back MVP, and their defense will be good. So I think the defense is going to be able to do more to support Rodgers in that offense than they have been in years past. Maybe take a little pressure off. Don't have to score as many points. But I'm not buying the Vikings yet until I see it. And I
Sure.
think their offense is going to be very good, but how's that defense going to look? I
Right.
mean, that's another thing. Are you going to be able to stop a Rodgers-led offense or some of these other high-powered offenses in the NFL? So question mark for Minnesota definitely is the defense. And obviously Kirk Cousins is always a little bit of a wild card, especially in clutch situations. I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to stick with the Packers on this one.
You're never quite sure what you're going to get out of Kirk Cousins. They were 8-9 last year. Look, this division does not impress me either.
No.
I'm with you. I'm taking the Packers as well. As much as Aaron Rodgers, just irks me in every single way known to man. Off the field, you can't deny his talent on the field. They were 13-4 last year, won the division. I think they do it again. NFC South, Bucks, Saints, Falcons, Panthers. Who do you like here?
Some people have been getting on me for this one, but I'm going with the Saints. I think that they're just a better all-around team. Obviously, concerns about Jameis Winston, Michael Thomas, but there are a lot of weapons on that offense. Very good offensive line, something the Bucks don't have because of injuries. And the Saints are just the best all-around team in that division. I think their defense is going to be very good. And the Bucks, I don't know. I'm a little worried about Brady. Because of the offensive line, but also he seems to be having some off the field drama as well. And you can never tell how much that's going to impact the player during the season. So
Yeah.
I think the Bucks are gonna go down a little bit this year. I still have them as a wild card team, but I don't think that they're going to be as good as they have been since Brady got there. I've got the Saints taking that division, and probably one of my more underdog picks.
Sure. This is why I'm glad you're here, and this is why I had you come on the show. This is why, right here. Now, this is not a debate show. This is not First Take. We're not going to argue back and forth. It doesn't make the greatest radio in the world that we're agreeing on everything, but I do agree with you. I don't like what I see with Brady as far as his personal stuff. Look, the guy's 45 years old, and I've said this to friends and family, and I'll tell you what I am concerned about the most. And it's not so much. I mean, part of it is his stuff going out the field because none of us know. So we really don't know how to gauge it. I have no idea. Tom hasn't called me. I don't think he's called you, Mike. So I know you don't know. So that's a big if so facto. That's something that should always weigh on your brain. Like, hey, for all intents and purposes, I hope it's not anything serious. I hope his family and everybody is okay. But you can't tell me that doesn't play into someone's play, especially guys like this. My biggest thing is when Brett Favre hit that wall, and we all remember it, there's a point in every quarterback's career where they hit that wall. And the thing about it is, it's not something gradual. That's why they call it hitting the wall. And Brett Favre hit that wall hard. One day he felt great. He was throwing good balls. The next day, couldn't complete a pass to save his life, threw 3 interceptions in a quarter. And I'm not saying Tom Brady's going to do that. What I'm saying is time waits for no man. Now, I know the guy eats tree bark and grass and, does yoga and great. He's in great shape. But can we talk about, first of all, Mike, did you see this man's face in that first press conference he had when he came back from 2 weeks of not being at training camp? I was like, yo, what's up, man? Have you been eating? I just, I didn't understand what was going on. He looked, it was concerning. His look was concerning. But barring that, I like Jameis Winston because I think Jameis is another quarterback that's got a lot to prove. This is a guy we all know through 33 touchdowns and 31 interceptions, a couple years back. Let's not forget that this is a guy that knows how to throw the football. And I think he's gotten rid of a lot of his cobwebs. I think he's gotten rid of a lot of his issues off the field. I think he's in a better place personally, mentally. And again, I think we tend to forget that this guy can throw a freaking football. I like Jameis Winston. I think this is his comeback year, and I am 100% on board with you. I think the Saints win this division this year. All right, and finally, did we do the NFC West? No. Okay. NFC West, Rams, Cardinals, Niners, Seahawks. I'm going to go first, and I'm going to tell you I'm on board with the Arizona Cardinals winning this division. I just wanted to say that before I gave it to you. Go ahead. Who do you got?
Well, we finally disagree on something. I've got the 49ers. Yeah,
Oh!
I've got the 49ers. Yeah, I mean, listen, I love their defense. I think they've got some really good weapons on offense, obviously. Kittle's injury notwithstanding. Hopefully they get him back sooner rather than later. Listen, jury's still out on Trey Lance, but if things blow up, you've got Jimmy Garoppolo, who's proven, he can get them to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, I think that was a great move by the 49ers to figure out a way to keep him while also lowering that cap hit. I just like them as the best team, and I made this pick before Thursday night. So let me just say that wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. The Rams have a really tough schedule.
I do too.
And I just think the 49ers, they're just perennially they're a competitive team. I think Trey Lance is going to be good. I think that offense is going to be good, and I think they end up taking it.
Look, I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, I like the pick. I really do, because at the end of the day, I kind of feel bad for Trey. Because everybody's looking at him. Look, I even heard that he's a little irritated by it all, by all the talk, and like, oh well, he was upset that Jimmy G got signed back.
Yep.
And it's like, you kind of have to take it for what it's worth, man. Look, people still aren't sure about you. Don't be upset about it. Go prove them wrong. That's what you do.
Exactly.
You go prove them wrong. Don't be butthurt about it. Don't start walking around here playing like Aaron and Tom and playing with the chip on your shoulder. Don't start that. Just don't do it, man. Go show us what you're made of, and keep Jimmy G on the bench for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and this is a good team. I understand the insurance policy. You're trying to compete. If Trey Lance looks terrible the first couple of games, and you don't have a guy like Jimmy G behind him, you're in trouble. It's a big problem. One of the reasons I'm not picking the Cardinals is that Kyler Murray doesn't ever seem to finish a season strong. I don't know if it's because, the new Call of Duty comes out in October or November, and he's too busy worrying about that or whatever, but I just don't have any faith in the Cardinals. I don't, no DeAndre Hopkins the first 6 weeks. That's going to be a rough thing to get through. Right. I don't like Marquise Brown. I don't think he's a very good player. So I just like the 49ers as the most well-rounded team in that division. And, obviously Trey Lance, big question mark, but you have that insurance policy. So absolutely. I think they're going to be just fine no matter what happens at the quarterback position.
It's a good pick. I like it. Mike Moraitis hanging out with you right down the line on Hot 97.7. Thanks so much for coming in. So, AFC. All right, so let's do this. AFC, NFC. Who wins? Who's going to the Super Bowl?
I have the Bills coming out of the AFC, and I'm going to go with the Eagles in the NFC. It's kind of
Wow.
been a trendy pick, but I just I don't know. I just don't love any of these teams in the NFC. You know, your usual suspects. I don't like the Packers this year. I hate their receiver situation. Like their defense, just don't like the way their offense is set up, you know, and,
Okay.
and it's going to be very dependent on the run and until I see some guys emerge out of that receiving core, I just don't have any faith. I told you the Bucks. I think they're not going to be as good as they have been the last few years. The Rams, I mean, what they did on Thursday spoke for itself. Again, you don't want to get
Oh,
too
yes.
crazy about one game, but I'm just seeing the usual suspects and the teams that you would think are going to be there, and I just don't like any of them. And when it comes down to it, I kind of like the Eagles' makeup more than those teams.
Okay.
But we'll see.
I have the Bills and the Saints.
Okay.
Again, I think this is a year that everybody remembers who Jameis Winston is, for his talents, for what he's able to do. I hate to use this term, but his rah-rah spirit. He's a rah-rah guy. He knows how to get guys motivated. And look, that was something that's a big culture in New Orleans. Drew Brees was that rah-rah guy. He was very good at motivating his guys. And I think Jameis is, I'm not saying that, he's the next coming of Drew Brees. I'm just saying he understands how that team is and what Sean Payton, what the Saints as a whole, expect from their leader. And I think this is a year that we remember, or he lets us know, hey, don't forget about me. I'm over here still,
Yeah, I love Jameis. I love the workout videos and the weird
Oh,
drills he
yeah.
does, and then the eating the W. Like I would love to see him eating a W while the ticker tape is coming down after the Super
You
Bowl. I
know?
would love to see that. That would be great, and what a great story it would be. Yeah, I mean, he's got the talent. You just got to take care of the football, and if he can do that, I think the
Yep.
Saints are going to win that division.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. You got to stop throwing picks, buddy. Got
Oh,
to stop.
absolutely, absolutely. And
Remember,
this is a
remember
more
the jersey you're
conservative
wearing.
offense. Yeah, him and Bruce Arians were the worst match ever.
Oh,
Bruce Arians loves to air it out with reckless abandon, and that is Jameis's like worst quality. I mean,
yep.
he's got a big arm, but when you start letting him throw the ball over the field with reckless abandon and not kind of reining him in a little bit, that's when you're
Doesn't
going to
work.
see 30 interceptions or whatever.
Just does not work. All right. So today, tons of games, early games too, by the way. There's only like 4 o'clock games.
Yep.
Ton of games on at 1. So first, let's do this. Give me your upset game of the week. So who this week do you think you're like people are going, oh yeah, that's a win, and you're like, you do a little Coach Lee Corso. Not so fast, my friend.
Let's see. I would say let's go with the Patriots.
Okay.
Patriots are 3.5, 3.5 point dogs on the road to the Dolphins. I could see the Dolphins getting off to a little bit of a rough start. Patriots coming out of nowhere. Nobody's really paying attention to them this year, and I don't necessarily think they're going to be that good this year. Maybe they finish above 500, maybe not. But I could see them coming out in week 1 and Bill having a really good game plan for Tua and that offense and them surprising a couple of people and pulling out a win.
All right. I like it. So let's see. Oh, okay. I guess my phone doesn't want to work. I was trying to pull something up because for some reason it just won't come up here on my
Oh, I'll give you another one too, actually. Jaguars, 3.5 point dogs in Washington. I'm not convinced with Washington yet, not convinced with Carson Wentz yet. They're missing Chase Young. I think the Jaguars are not going to be good this year, but they'll be better than they were last year, going to be competitive. I think the same way about the Texans, actually, as far as them being much more competitive and better than people think they'll be. Watch out for the Jaguars, as 3.5 point dogs. I think that they can definitely cover that at least. And I think they can win it outright, to be honest with you.
So one of the picks I was looking at earlier, and I kind of wavered with this one, And a lot of things that you and I talked about between Green Bay and Minnesota. Look, the only reason I'm making this elaborate upset pick is because for some reason Kirk Cousins finds a way to get stuff done in the beginning of the season. It's towards the end of the season that you have to start worrying about him and trying to figure out, I don't know, is his arm okay? What's going on? Is why is why is he missing easy marks? So for that, I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings. Are going to upset the Broncos in Minnesota today. There's a couple things about Green Bay being in Green Bay. If this game was in Green Bay, I wouldn't even go near it. I just wouldn't. And when people say, "Oh, does home field really make that big of a difference?" Not in every situation, but certain teams and certain stadiums like Lambeau, week one, yeah, I probably would have stayed really far away from this one.
Yeah,
But
I agree. I agree with you on that one because I think the Packers passing game is going to be a mess to start. I
yep,
think they'll get better as the year progresses, but again, you a lot of uncertainty in that receiving core. How is the rookie Christian Watson going to look? When is Alan Lazard going to come back? He's their number one. So I could totally see the Packers being a mess through the air to start the season and the Vikings taking that game. I agree with you.
look, Minnesota's favored by 2.
Yeah, that was surprising to
I
me,
was
but
like, what?
yeah, people are very high on them this year. I'm not the same. I think again they'll be better, but
Right,
I mean to start picking them to win the division, I've got to see it.
right. So a 4 o'clock game, we got Raiders, Chargers. Derek Carr, feels like, he's a man amongst men, and he's been really lifted up by a lot of guys in our business. And it's not that I'm ready to concede or say that he is or he isn't. I think he's a good quarterback. I think that it's taken him a while to get where he's needed to be. I think he's had some. I think he's had a bumpy road. The whole thing with Gruden, and he's had his problems. This game has the Chargers 3.5 favorites. Who do you like in this game?
I'm gonna take the Raiders. I think they come out and they get the upset. I think Derek Carr has not gotten his fair shake. I think he's a much better quarterback than people give him credit for,
Sure.
and really has been lacking weapons, especially in the last couple of years. Now you bring Devontae Adams into the fold. Hunter Renfrow is developing into one of the better slot receivers in the league. You have another. I mean, basically another receiver in Darren Waller at tight end, who's just an absolutely dynamic player, one of the best in the business at the position. I love their offense. I mean, their defense has some question marks, obviously, but the Chargers won't have J.C. Jackson in this game, so there's no matchup there for Devontae Adams. I think the Raiders come out strong in this game. I think it's a high-scoring game, and the Chargers defense, which will probably be much improved, is going to get off to a little bit of a slow start here. I think it's going to be tough for them. I like the Raiders winning that game.
I do too, and I think you know Derek Carr, like you said, I think he's been underrated for a long time. I just don't think that he's been that over the past few years, 2 years, 2 seasons. He's shown us that he is that guy, and I'm glad because at least now people are talking about him and how good he actually is. And I think it's been because he has been so inconsistent. The fact that he's been consistent now people are starting to take more notice. Browns, Panthers, of course. This is it's always interesting to watch a player go back because we're going to deal with that on Monday as well. With with Russell Wilson, but Baker Mayfield, is going to be playing Cleveland in his new home in Carolina. Who do you like in this one?
Well, if I was betting, I wouldn't touch this game with a 10-foot pole. To be honest with you, I just hate it. What is the spread? A half a point in favor of the Panthers, I
Yeah.
believe.
So hold on. Wait.
Yeah.
Oh, it's even. It's even.
Oh, is it a pick 'em now? Okay, where I'm
That's
looking at it's a half a point. It's basically a pick 'em anyway. I hate this game. I think
Yeah.
the Browns are going to stink with Jacoby Brissett under center, and Baker. I think can he keep his emotions in check? He's a very emotional guy. Is he going to go out there? Is he going to start throwing passes 10 feet over guys' heads because he's just all jacked up to try to get revenge on his old team, which he is very much interested in doing.
Oh
I
yeah.
think the Panthers win that game. I think because of the quarterback situation. I think it's going to be a difference. As much as I don't have faith in Baker Mayfield, I have more faith in him than Jacoby Brissett, who I've watched with the Colts for years. I'm going to take the Panthers to win that game, but I don't expect it to be a very entertaining game at all. So, kind of hold your nose for that one. That one's going to be one of the
One of
worst
the
games of the
stinkers.
week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, here's the thing. I don't think it's going to be entertaining at all, and I agree with you on that aspect. And the reason I don't, the only reason it might be entertaining is because of something ridiculous that Baker does. Like, we're probably going to have to wait because I'm not going to watch it. I'll watch the highlights as I do with games that I have no interest in really bearing down on. But I think the only interesting thing about that game is going to be some kind of highlight that we'll see on ESPN or somewhere, to be honest with you. So I agree with you on that. All right. The other returning quarterback to his old team, of course, Monday night, you got the Broncos, you got Seattle. In Seattle, this is interesting because I don't think it's really too much of a game to talk about. However, believe it or not, there are quite a few people that still have the thought that Seattle can win because of that 12th man, which we talked about earlier. I'm not buying into. I think Denver wins this handily. I think Russell shows us why he got that contract, why Denver made sure that they were able to go and grab a top 5 quarterback, a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And I think that he shows that on Monday night. Who you got?
Yeah, totally agree. I think that's going to be a stomp fest. I think by third quarter, you're looking at, maybe backups being it. I mean, I think it's going to be, the Seahawks are going to get slaughtered. And if there's any quarterback in the NFL who is equipped to handle the 12th man and knows about the 12th man, I mean, it's Russell Wilson. It's a guy who played
Yeah.
his entire career there up until this year. So I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. And, honestly, when the Broncos start running up the score, the crowd's going to get taken out of it. And I think everybody knows that. So I'm expecting a big game from Russell Wilson in his return. As far as fantasy is concerned, I'm starting him. I'm starting Cortland
Oh
Sutton.
yeah.
I'm starting Javante Williams. I'm starting Jerry Judy. I'm starting the punter. I'm starting the water boy. I'm starting everybody. The defense
We'll
as
bring it
well.
back to Elway. No,
Yeah, I mean Albert O. I mean, get them all in there.
there
Get
you
them in your
go.
lineup and start them because it should be ugly.
We talked about the whole move, with Russell earlier. Do you feel like Seattle that do you feel like it was a bad move? Did you feel bad for the fact that Russell left, or is it just me? Like, I feel like Seattle did him dirty. I feel like they may have, I think part of it had to do with Pete Carroll too. Did you feel like it wasn't an amicable split, and maybe they should have figured out a way for him to stay?
Yeah, you never let an elite quarterback like Russell Wilson go. You just don't. You have to do whatever it takes. They're so hard to find, and especially
Yep.
a guy who has proven he can win a Super Bowl. And really two. Let's not get into that again, but
Right.
you don't let a guy like that go. You do the best you can to keep him and build around him. And quite honestly, since the Legion of Boom has kind of, dissipated, they
Right.
really haven't done a good job rebuilding their defense.
Yep.
Until DK Metcalf, they really didn't do much as far as wide receivers are concerned. They lost Chris Carson. And they were always really obsessed with running the football. You have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Throw the damn thing, let Russ cook. And they really didn't do that as much as they should have. And I think Russ was just sick of it. And I think he saw a situation in Denver that obviously looked much better, and he
Oh
wanted to get in there. And I think he made the right move in getting out of Seattle. I think that's a ship that ain't going anywhere, and I think they're going to start rebuilding. And we'll see if in a couple of years it comes to fruition. But I don't think Pete Carroll is long for that team. I think when in a couple of years or a year or two that rebuild really kicks off in earnest and they start, I think they're going to have a new head coach at the helm. I just can't. I think Pete is too stuck in his ways and is
It's
not
old
the guy
school
for that
ways.
job anymore. And don't get me wrong. I mean, he did a great job. I mean,
Sure.
like we said, he won the Super Bowl, made it to two, should have won a second. But I think it's time probably for new leadership there.
I completely agree. And I don't want people sending bad tweets and stuff about, oh well, you just think it's not because he's old.
No,
It has
no,
nothing to do with that. He's a
no.
very
I think
vibrant 70-something-year-old man. I think he's stuck in his ways, like you said, and I don't think that he's ready to start thinking outside of his own box, and that's going to be detrimental to them rebuilding, like you said.
sure. And once they split with Russell Wilson, I think they should have split with the GM and the head
Agreed.
coach and go in a completely different direction. Start this thing over again. But no, they chose not to do that. So here we are.
Absolutely. All right, real quick before we get out of here. Speaking of Monday night, you got to give me your take. Now, I know people love to beat up Chris Collinsworth. Chris Collinsworth, like, it's here or it's hit or miss with me. Sometimes he says stupid stuff, whatever. I'm watching the game, but I want to ask you, what do you think about them putting Joe Buck and Troy in the booth for Monday night? How do you feel about that?
They're okay. Uh, I'm one of those Yankees fans that does not like Joe Buck. I didn't like him until I heard him on Howard Stern one day. He did a really good interview on Howard Stern. Really down to earth guy, really cool actually.
Right.
I think a lot of people should listen to that interview. If you don't like Joe Buck, you'll have a different opinion of him after that.
Sure.
I think they're one of the more overrated duos in announcing. I'm not a huge fan of them. They're okay. They're certainly going to be better than the dumpster fire Monday Night Football had the last couple of years. I mean, disaster. That was so
What are you
bad. I
doing?
couldn't even. Yeah, I mean,
Just
it
handing
was.
out jobs. Like, here you go. Why
Yeah,
don't you put Booger McFarland on in a recliner on the sideline? What are you doing?
right.
Well, why
That
is
was
Booger
so
even
odd.
involved in this?
Yeah, I mean that was so odd. And I mean, if you want to compare, the CBS duo with Jim Nance and Tony Romo is probably the best in the business. And then I think Sunday Night Football with Tirico and Collinsworth,
Love
those
Tariq.
two guys are great. I love Collinsworth. I know a lot of people, he's not,
It doesn't
their cup of
bother
tea
me
or
like it
whatever.
bothers other people.
I like him a lot. Him and Romo, you could hear the love of football coming through them
Sure.
when they're talking to you through the TV. I just think they're great, and I think those two duos are better than the Monday Night Football one. And Al Michaels is probably my favorite play-by-play guy of all time. I
Absolutely.
think he's with Amazon now. Is he doing Thursday nights?
Yeah, I think so.
Uh, all-time great, all-time great
Oh, he's the
announcer.
best.
The Miracle in 1980 obviously is one of the greatest sports calls ever. So I would put all those guys ahead of Buck and Aikman. Not terrible, obviously an upgrade over what they had in Monday Night Football the last few years, but
That's
it'll make Monday Night Football a little bit better.
it. It actually will. Look, Joe Buck has got that voice, and a lot. And like you said, go watch that Howard Stern, that interview that he had. I I revered Joe Buck because of his lineage, because of his father, because of look, Joe is, you want to talk about somebody that, paid his dues back in the day. Nobody better than Joe Buck. That guy, regardless of the fact that his father was who he was, Joe still had to go through
Yeah.
the same things that a lot of those other guys like Jim Nance and Al Michaels way back in the day. Trust me, he paid his dues and he's got that voice. It's a very distinctive voice. It's Joe Buck. You just know it is. Whether it's in baseball or football, it's him. And I
Right.
think that this is the changing of the guard. I think that ESPN went out on a limb. They paid these guys a lot of money to be the voice of Monday Night Football because they needed it, because they were doing, like you said, a horrible job of sticking people in that booth. They were killing me. It's hard enough when there's bad games on Monday night. There are bad matchups that people are like, oh man. Now you're going to throw in people you don't even want to listen to because they don't know how to call games. Your color guys are trying to be analysts. Your analysts want to be color guys. Like it's not working. Everybody's supposed to have their own space, and you guys are
Right.
not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you have people watching the Mannings casting the game over the regular broadcast.
Exactly.
If that's not a sign that you need to make a change, I don't know what is. And I think ESPN probably tried to go on the cheap, bring in some guys who maybe aren't going to cost as much money,
Yep.
didn't work. Spend the money, open up the pocketbook, and get the best of the best for, really what is probably the most paid attention to football game every week, at least when it's a semi decent matchup.
Look, whether you like them or not, and I am not I'm okay with listening. I'm okay with them. Okay, let me paint a picture for you real quick. So many moons ago, I was in Pittsburgh, and I was there for a Philly game, and Fox was covering it, and Troy and why can't I remember her name all of a sudden? Pam Oliver. Him and Pam Oliver were walking by. Now, mind you, we're 3 rows back from the field, unlike the 40. Okay, great seats. We slide 2 rows down. We're on the thing. Ryan, I'm wearing a Ryan Clark jersey. Ryan Clark points at me. He goes, "Yo," and he's like doing like this, like, "Do you want me to sign your jersey?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course." So he comes running over. I pull dude. I had my camera around my neck. I almost dropped my camera, like a $400 camera, to rip this jersey off my body so that Ryan Clark would sign it. Now, mind you, the anchor team, the Fox team, they're walking around. So Pam Oliver walks by, and I had a program, and I was like, "Hey Pam, how you doing? I'm a sports broadcaster. I do radio, blah blah. I'm a big fan. Could you sign my program?" She's like, "Absolutely." She reaches up, takes my pen, signs it. Troy comes by. I'm like, "Troy, Mr. Aikman, Troy." Crickets, bro.
Those guys are probably during their careers probably have fans yelling their name all the
I
time
know,
for
I know.
autographs or trying to talk trash. So they probably are like
Tuned it
exceptional
out. I
at tuning out
I
or
get it.
or they hear you and they're just really good at ignoring it, like as to where if me and you are walking down the street and somebody yells, "Mike,"
Right.
we're
And we're
kind
like,
of like,
"What?"
what? Somebody wants to talk to me? Who?
Right. Exactly.
Not the same with these guys. They're
I
on
know.
the opposite side. They're trying to avoid everybody. So, but yeah, I mean,
What made it
would have
hard
taken
for
three
me
seconds to do.
after a while was the fact that I was so far away from everybody else. I
Right.
was kind of in my own little cubby area. It was just me and one other guy, and he wasn't with anybody. I I get it, and I agree with you. However, you could have taken 2 seconds to grab my pen. You didn't even have to give me your real signature. You could have just scribbled on the back of my program, dude, and handed it back.
You know what
The
you should have
fact
done?
that
You
you
should have
gave me
borrowed
2 seconds.
somebody's kid. That would have helped. He would have then if it was a kid yelling his name, he
True.
might have gotten it. Like so.
That
You
is
should have
true.
borrowed somebody's kid. That was your mistake, I guess.
Well, hey, thanks for coming on, man. I hope you have time next Sunday to come hang
Absolutely.
out and
Sure.
do it again. Mike Moraitis, make sure you guys check him out. The Titans Wire. And look, man, it was a lot of fun. I appreciate it. But I do want to say this before we get out of here. Of course, today is 9/11. I'm wearing of course, my New York Borough shirt. I lost two gentlemen that I knew back in high school. One was a firefighter, Mr. Mike McHugh, and another one was a friend of the family's, Brian Novotny, on 9/11. So I just wanted to say my thoughts and prayers out to everybody, even 21 years later, how hard it is on this day for those families and loved ones that lost somebody at the Pentagon just on that day, and this tragic day. Please never forget what happened on this day. And just make sure that you remember that we can't be broken no matter what. This country can't be broken. It took a tragedy like that to bring us together. Let's hope we never have to experience that again. Somebody during the reading, which I've had on my television in the studio the whole time, the reading of the names for 9/11, and a man came on that had lost his dad, and he made a comment to all the politicians that were there. Make sure you're doing your due diligence. Make sure that you're being accountable. Don't stop trying to tear this country apart. He just said some very poignant things. I wish I would have wrote his name down to say who he was. But let's not have another tragedy to bring us together, and let's stop letting politics separate us as well. So before we get out of here, anything you want to say, my man?
Yeah, I mean, listen, enjoy football. find a nice spot on the couch, maybe some wings.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I can't have beers because I got a game to cover at 4:25. So I'm
Ah,
going to have to
there you go.
just, chill out, watch some football, but enjoy it, man. I mean, we've been waiting a long time for this. So, enjoy it. And again, 9/11, no matter how much time passes, we can never ever forget what happened that day. We can't forget the people who lost their lives, and my thoughts and prayers and condolences go out to all the victims and their families and friends. Just a terrible tragedy, but they will never be forgotten. We'll make sure of that.
Absolutely. He's Mike Moraitis. I'm Michael J. Thanks so much for hanging out. Make sure you guys check him out. Managing editor over at the Titans Wire for USA Today. Are you covering the Titans game today?
Absolutely. I'll be live tweeting from the Titans Wire account. I'll have full recaps, winners, losers, quotes after the game, rapid fire. I'll be pumping stuff out. So come 7:30 or so, the content's going to be flying, and then we'll have in-game coverage of injuries, highlights,
Look at that.
everything. We cover top to bottom, so you'll get everything you need about Titans Giants during, and after the game.
There you go. Make sure you guys check them out. All right, guys. Thanks so much for coming on. Hot 97.7, and of course on Twitter and on Facebook at Michael J Radio and at RDL. See that RDLT show on Twitter as well. We'll see you next Sunday. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. And as we say around here all the time, I'll sweat small stuff. We're out of here. See you.